Hey all, here at OS Reviews, you're watching our unboxing and first impressions look at the Keecoo P11. This is one of the cheapest 18:9 or 2:1 aspect ratio phablets that you can find online. It goes on sale for as low as $80, which makes it another really budget option to consider if you're looking for a cheap phone, a secondary backup, or something to give to the elderly or to the kids. So we recently reviewed another super budget phone that was the Ulefone S8 Pro, and I was a huge fan of this device because it's made out of metal. It has a fingerprint scanner and a really sharp display at about the same price point as the P11. The P11 has similar specifications, but it has that new aspect ratio. So a big question is whether it manages to edge out the S8 Pro to become the new king of the budget territory. It's a quad-band unlocked phone that also has a 5.7-inch HD display, 2 gigs of built-in RAM, 16 gigs of built-in storage, runs on Android 7.0, and has a MediaTek 6737 quad-core chip clocked at 1.3 gigahertz, so the battery is contained and not removable, coming in at 2,700 milliamp hours. It's a little bit smaller, but as a whole, this is a thinner and lighter phone, slightly sleeker as well, with that aspect ratio that makes the bezels look very small. We do have Android 7.0, and this is a dual SIM device as well. And if we open up the box, we have just the phone presented right on top. We'll take a closer look at it in a second. And underneath here, we have actually quite a few accessories. This is a manufacturer that seems to be new at making smartphones. I couldn't find any previous models that they released, so also interesting that this is going to be their first phone, and it's a really budget option as well. There is a user manual, and we have a secondary screen protector. One is probably pre-installed, and there's a TPU case. And you get headphones in the box. That's something you simply don't find a lot these days. It has these in-ear tips and a 3.5mm plug, so this one probably has a standard headphone jack. That's nice to see. And there's also a SIM ejector tool. There is the charging cable, which is micro USB, not USB Type-C. But then again, at this really low price, it's not a huge deal. And this is the charging adapter, which simply uses USB. So let's take a look at the phone here. 5.7 inches, so not quite as large as many of the 6-inch phablets that we've been seeing with the same 2:1 aspect ratio, so it's slightly easier to slide into a pocket. And on the back, we just have some very basic information. We can peel back this protective film. And we're left with a fairly sleek looking design, very modern and minimalistic. There's just the company's logo, and there's the fingerprint scanner along with the camera, which is 13 megapixels, and a dual tone LED flash. This one is made out of plastic, so it's not an aluminum phone. It's made out of polycarbonate. It reminds me a little bit of Nokia's older Lumia devices. The side features the volume rocker and the power key. Let's try tapping on this for a few seconds if there's any juice. And on the bottom, there is the micro USB port for charging, along with the speaker and a microphone. So indeed, the phone is booting up now for the first time. We're going to peel back this protective film. And there probably is already a protector applied, as you can see here. So it will try and protect the screen from scratches. We don't have any capacitive keys below, so they're all going to be virtual and on screen, just like the current crop of flagships like the G6, the Galaxy phones. The top here has a earpiece and a front-facing camera, but there is no selfie flash like many other devices that we've been seeing recently. And the screen here is IPS. Again, it's 720. It's not full HD or full HD plus, but on a smaller panel like this, it should more than suffice in terms of clarity. It has a pretty stock process, it seems like, for setting it up. Now we're going to add our fingerprint and try out the scanner here. So putting our fingers on there and lifting and repeating it, slightly shifting it around to capture all the edges so it gets a better detection rate. And hopefully this process will be done. We can add up to 5 fingers, it seems, for recognition. And we're going to skip all of these settings for now. So we're greeted to Android 7.0 Nougat, and this is indeed a pretty heavy skin on top of Android. It doesn't look very stock from first impression, so you don't have an app tray. It's actually very typical for many Chinese, especially Shenzhen-based smartphones, but as of late, we've been seeing quite a few devices that have opted for a more stock experience, such as the Ulefone here. But still, we do have these fairly attractive-looking icons. It reminds me a little bit of iOS. It's very simple, so first-time smartphone users should still be able to figure things out. The top has the battery information, drag down notification shade. Again, there's not too much customization going on here. There's Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth built right on in, and the wallpapers will loop by default to go all the way around. In terms of Google Apps, they're installed right here. It seems like we have all the standards, including the Play Store, which is good. There are several tools on here, like an FM radio built on in, as well as a few other features like face recognition. This is pretty cool. You get it on such a budget phone. Definitely doesn't work quite as well as on the iPhone 10, which has more sensors for detecting your face. This one just uses the front-facing camera. If we jump into settings very quickly here, it is indeed running on Android 7.0 Nougat, so fairly up-to-date as far as a really low-cost phone is considered. Display on first impressions seems to be also fairly bright. We do have square edges as opposed to rounded edges, which we've been seeing quite a few on some other devices of late, but nonetheless it also has pretty small bezels for a really low-cost phone. They are still present, but it's been minimized to a large extent, so you have a larger screen-to-body ratio, especially compared to other budget phones we've seen in the past. So here it is up to the Xiaomi Redmi 5 Plus. This is a quick comparison of size, 5.7 inches versus 6 inches, so you get a nice idea of the difference there. So it's slightly easier to hold with one hand and navigate everything, including the top and the bottom edges of the screen, without having to reach or fumble too much, but you still have a pretty large panel for watching media and browsing the web. So we'll have to do a bit more testing to figure out whether this one holds up in terms of performance and whether it can really rival the S8 Plus and become another super solid budget phone to recommend. You can see that the dimensions of these two phones are actually very similar, but 5.7 inches versus 5.3 inches, since this one has the older aspect ratio and larger bezels, but it does have a few additional features, such as a metal frame, which feels a bit more premium, a selfie flash in the front, and a more clean overall experience in the software. So it's going to come down to performance, whether you enjoy stock or something that is slightly modified, as well as the overall build and stylistic preferences. All right, so be sure to stay tuned for our full review coming out soon, but for now, this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This was our unboxing and first impressions look at the Keecoo K11, a very low-cost phablet with a 2:1 aspect ratio display.